Today, we'll be looking at a lied by one of the early Romantic composers, Franz Schubert. Now, Schubert had composed a number of Lieder, or art songs, before composing his famous Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel. But Schubert's adaptation of Goethe's poetry was a sign that the art of composing song was moving in a new direction. Franz Schubert was born and spent his entire career in Vienna. He composed with astonishing speed and wrote over 140 songs in 1815 alone, composed over 600 Lieder in his lifetime, and if you look at his dates, he died at the age of 31. Given how young he was when he passed away, it's amazing to think about how much music he composed in his lifetime. Mozart died at an early age, but he outlived Schubert by 4 years. With Schubert's songs, he attempted to make the music equal to the words. The music was just as important as the poetry. Some of his finest works are his two song cycles, The Pretty Miller Maid and Winter's Journey. With the song forms, sometimes they would be strophic, which is where each stanza is sung to the same music. He would use modified strophic, which is what we hear in Gretchen and the Spinning Wheel, where the music repeats in some of the verses, but it's varied in others. He also used through composed, where each strophe or each verse has new music. A good example of that would be his ballad, The Errol King. Surprisingly, many of the melodies in Schubert's Lieder are simple and folk-like. That's not to say that he doesn't have some beautiful melodies, but the accompaniment rivals the beauty that we find in the melodic line of the voice. Accompaniments vary from simple to dramatic, and sometimes the accompaniment in the piano will reflect an image in the poem. In terms of the harmony, Schubert uses harmony to reinforce the poetry. And we will find many of these characteristics in his art song, Gretchen am Spinnrad. The text is taken from Goethe's Faust, and in the poem, Gretchen is sitting at the spinning wheel, spinning thread, and she's thinking about her new love, Faust. Now, Gretchen is an innocent young woman, and she's just had her first intimate moment with Faust, her first kiss. And she's sitting there, spinning thread, and all she can think about is him. She says her heart is heavy, the world is bitter without him. She thinks about the strength of his gaze, the flow of his conversation, and she longs to hold and kiss him again. Now, what I want you to think about is this. How does Schubert imagine all of this in the music? We know what Gretchen is saying, right? That's in the poetry. But her emotional state, the psychology, the imagery, is that in the music? There's something else that Schubert portrays in the music, and that is in part where the piano comes in with the storytelling. This combination of voice and piano was solidified for the art song during the Romantic era. We have more and more examples where the piano is doing something other than just outlining the harmony with Alberti bass. And looking at the piano part for Gretchen at the Spinning Wheel, the harmony does suggest Gretchen's restlessness, but those spinning 16th note figures, they also represent maybe her agitation. Could those spinning 16th notes represent something else, something from the poetry, or even the title? And looking at the bass clef, those repeated 8th notes, some people say that it's meant to represent the heartbeat of Gretchen. But if you know how a spinning wheel works, there's a pedal that you have to keep pressing in order to keep the mechanism moving. There may be a connection there. Now, in terms of the psychology, what does it mean at measures 66 through 68 when the piano stops and Gretchen recalls her beloved's kiss? Why does Schubert choose to stop the spinning 16th note figure? And and then the spinning begins again as she regains her composure. None of this is accidental. None of this is random. Franz Schubert was one of the early masters of the lead and the song cycle. And this art song is a perfect example of that. It also underlines the fact that Schubert was one of the great composers of early Romanticism.